The Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently announced measures from the upcoming elections to make it fairer for the renters and make it easier for them to become homeowners. These recent measures aim to enhance the tenants' rights, affordability, and fairness. But will these new measures help the tenants and hurt the landlord? Does the housing shortage among the younger individuals really matter? Fairness for every generation, as the program is titled, really fair for all. Stay tuned as we go through these questions. Hello, this is Nakvi from Real Estate. So the federal government recently announced measures to introduce a renters' bill of rights. This bill aims to protect renters, especially the younger generation that's renting more than any previous generation. So here are the key provisions. The first is the legal aid fund. So the federal government will allocate $15 million towards provincial legal aid organization to assist in cases of renovictions and landlord abuse. So renovictions are situations where the landlord asks the tenants to vacate the property to make extensive renovations. So the renovations are done, and then the landlord, after the renovations are done, the landlord will seek higher rent, and then the previous tenants are not allowed to move in at the same rate. That in turn leads to housing affordability issues. So this legal aid fund is definitely a good thing for the tenants who are unable to take care of their legal issues. Definitely it's towards the tenants' rights. So another thing they're proposing is a national standard lease agreement. The housing is a provincial matter. From what I see, the province will be dragging their feet, and in terms of how this is really going to help the tenants, I don't get it, because usually the provinces have their own rental agreements. So the standard lease agreement, which was introduced in Ontario a few years back, that has been used widely, and that is the standard lease agreement in Ontario, and that's what we use. And all the tenants and landlords have to use that basically. Improvements are done, and that's updated on a periodical basis. So Ottawa plans to develop this Bill of Rights in partnership with provinces and territories, but cooperation may be difficult to achieve based on the past history. So this is something, but I don't really get it, how this would help the tenants or the landlords. It's just a standard lease agreement, and whatever the province comes up, the landlord and the tenants have to use it. So this, I would say, it's really doesn't help, unless there are other details that they have not disclosed that would be coming up, when they announce the federal budget. So pricing history disclosure. So this would enforce the landlords to disclose the pricing history of the property. This may not help in Ontario. Maybe in other provinces it might be helpful, but in Ontario, this because of the housing shortage, the tenant really doesn't have. The idea is the tenant would have some sort of insight, and then some negotiating power, basically. This does work in downtown core area, where the tenants are paying less than what they were paying last year, because there are a lot of new buildings that have come up on occupancy, and then the landlords are willing to negotiate the price, drop the prices, and the tenants are getting better price than what they were paying last year. So this situation does arise, but really it doesn't make a difference if the prices are disclosed or not. The tenants would know what the particular price is in a certain area, and then they would negotiate with the landlords. So having a disclosure in the price of history of the rental history really doesn't make much difference to the tenant, especially in GTA. So the idea is this would help the tenants to understand, to know what the property value, the rental value was before, and they could negotiate that. This seems to help the tenants in the long term, not really as a point of negotiation with the landlord. Definitely not in Ontario. So another one is credit score recognition. This is definitely good. I totally support this, but I think this would help the landlord more than the tenant. So this benefits. So the idea is whatever period the tenant is renting the property, they are paying the rent on time, and if that's disclosed to the credit report, that would help the financial institutions engaging the financial ability of that tenant to pay that particular amount or that mortgage amount on time. So renters deserve credit for the money they put towards rent over the years, especially when it comes to apply for the mortgage for their first home. So if they're going through the mortgage and then their history of paying the rent on time, that would help the institutions in assigning or giving more financial freedom to the tenant, that way they will be able to afford a higher mortgage with a lesser income. But I also see the landlord really benefiting from this, especially in the last, let me tell you my story. In the last 6 to 8 months, I've seen incredible number of rental applications to the properties which I have put on market for lease. And with, I would say about 60 to 70% of the applications had documents that were fraudulent. So 60 to 70%. I am licensed in so many years, and I've never seen these many, documents that were really not valid. And the tenants are, kind of forced to come up with these kind of, solutions. The main issues which I see, like especially the investors that I deal with, they are very nice people. They are really not looking for giving hard time to the tenants. Because there have been so many evictions, like the backlog on tenant board is huge. You're looking at months of backlog for if there's any issue. So the landlords are very cautious of giving their property to anybody. So they want to make sure that that there's enough financial capability of a tenant. And that's the reason you see tenants who are really not able to afford the homes, but they have to get a property in that area, so they're coming up with all these kind of fraudulent methods. But I would say there are still decent tenants who would have all the legit documents. So I'd see the credit score recognition helping the landlords more than the tenants, because that way, and in fact that may help ease out the burden on the market as well, because the landlords will be more comfortable giving the property to any tenant, because they would know the whole history of how they were paying the rent, if they were paying on the rent on time or not. So definitely it's a plus, more for the landlord than for the tenant. But it's very clear from this Bill of Rights that the measures represent an important step towards ensuring fair housing and fair treatment and protections of renters across the nation. As we move forward, let us continue to advocate for the rights and dignity of all tenants, fostering communities where everyone has access to safe, secure, and affordable housing. Thank you for watching. This is Nakwi signing out from T.Real Estate. See you in the next one.